From book clubs to story times, literacy classes to community meetings, library services have been an important resource to the Washington community for over 100 years. Library service in Washington began in 1910 when Dr. W.B. Bagby organized a meeting with citizens for the purpose of starting a public library. He offered the use of a second-floor room facing the river in the post office building that was located on Main Street. Books and magazines were donated to the collection, which started with 700 volumes and was staffed by volunteers.
The history of the Washington Public Library goes back to the early days of the 20th century, and there was always an interest in the community for education and for a library. The last 5 or 6 years before it became the City of Washington's library, it was run by the CD chapter of PEO. The PEO chapter, CD chapter, has always remained an important part of the Washington Public Library. They always have a member of their chapter on the library board, historically, from that time forward, almost 100 years. They really were the founding mothers of the Washington Public Library.
The CD chapter of the PEO Sisterhood organized a public library in 1923, located in a room in the City Hall building. They provided service 1 day a week until 1924, when the library moved to a newly constructed City Hall building and the Washington City Council voted to take over responsibility of library services for the town.
They were going to try and pass a library tax to support the library, which did pass, and the city said they would provide a location, then the new City Hall. So in February of 1924, the Washington Public Library was born.
A library board was formed, and Miss Louisa Bush served as librarian until Miss Paula Hoffman was appointed in 1929. The library moved to different rooms within the new City Hall building for several years until a library tax levy was approved by voters in 1930 and the top floor was renovated, becoming a permanent home for the library in 1936. The library in City Hall became a gathering place for many citizens in the community. Velma Jones Stretker served as librarian for over 40 years, helping residents develop their love of reading and create many fond memories.
Velma goes back to the days before there was air conditioning. They used to have limited hours in the summer, so they'd be early in the morning and late in the evening, so that during the heat of the day, the library wasn't open because on the second floor of City Hall was pretty hot.
I can remember in the mid-70s walking to the library in the summertime and ascending the huge stairs. It just seemed like the stairs went on forever and ever and ever, and it was hot and there was no air conditioning, but you would get up to the stairs and there was just this wonderful world of books. Story hour was amazing. You'd have it seemed like 200 kids packed into one small room, but the windows would be open and you were trying to get air in, and everybody was just so engrossed in the stories, and it was so quiet.
As the community of Washington grew, so did the need for a larger library. A new municipal complex was built in 1980 directly across from the City Hall building. The new complex would house both the police department in the lower level and the library above. The new library space was double the size of the room in City Hall and housed nearly 30,000 books and periodicals when they moved into the facility on April 14, 1980.
You had the police downstairs and the library up above, and it was revolutionary. The police had been in the basement of City Hall, and it was like a dungeon. It was really grim. And so they were in palatial quarters, as were we. This magnificent building with handicap-accessible bathrooms. In those days, we were the only public restrooms downtown Washington.
One unique feature of the new library space was a large mural designed specifically for the Washington Public Library by local artist Gary Loesing.
Someone had approached Gary Loesing about providing a work of art for the new public library. And so negotiations went forward, and he had a plan for an 18-foot mural that would be in the public library. And he went just west of town, just east of New Haven, and found a spot looking towards the Missouri River, and he documented that valley and the animals he found there, and all of those went into the mural that is currently still in the Washington Public Library.
The new larger space allowed for further growth that would be driven by advances in technology, including the change to an automated cataloging system and the introduction of computers for public access to the internet. But a commitment to tradition and the needs and values of the community still remained.
I started this job in 1981, And I was either the third or fourth librarian. I was very conscious of the history, that there was this tradition of this public library in this community. And I tried to be very careful not to jeopardize that.
Washington citizens continued to show support of their local public library. In 2011, voters approved a half-cent capital improvement sales tax that allowed for plans to move forward for the renovation and expansion of the two-story facility, which opened April 2nd, 2012.
We worked a lot with the city staff, and some of that was like the city administrator, the assistant city administrator, and then we worked with the library staff. So the library director, she was involved a lot, Nell Redditch. The children's librarian was involved a lot because we were creating a lot of new spaces for the children. We held public meetings, what we called a design charrette, and we held them up there at the city hall in the council chambers, and it was like on a Saturday and Sunday, and anyone from the public could come in and see what we were designing. We'd pin it up, we'd ask questions, and that was the way to get the public input into the project. We probably put the documents together, the drawings, in 2011 is when we finished and construction started, and then it actually opened up, I believe it was the spring of 2012. One of the challenges was because it was on 2 levels and there was no connection, we needed to create that connection between the two. So when you go in there now, you see that large opening in the center with the stair going down. So that was kind of unique. We had to go in and basically saw cut the floor out and take that out. Part of the challenge on that was the lower level had, I think it was like 26 or 28 concrete columns below, because supporting all these books and all this heavy weight. So we had to lay the design out all around those columns to try to minimize that. So when you go in there now, you see some of them, they're more decorative. What was unique in the design was we kind of reorientated the direction of the building. The front door used to be on the east side, and there was just a small parking lot there. And that was always a problem where the people coming to the library, there was never any parking spots, and they'd have to park around back and walk up the alley and get in. So in the design, we changed it and put the new entrance on the opposite side so we could utilize that parking. It made it more user-friendly. And then part of the design was just to tie it in with what we call the municipal complex. So it kind of opens up to the city hall and also the police station and shares all that parking area. And that new entrance also kind of focuses its way more downtown. So like the pedestrian traffic, people can walk to the library much easier.
The renovation design tied the structure to other buildings in the area. The tower feature has a clay tile roof similar to that on the City Hall building and police station. The tower is also symbolic of the many church steeples in the downtown Washington area, and the large arched windows mimic those of City Hall. Also important in the design of the new facility was to maintain the large Abby Loesing mural.
The library initially was one floor that was 10,000 square feet. Now that it's moved down and expanded out, it's closer to probably 23,000 square feet. So we more than doubled the size of the library.
Working at the newspaper, I got to see how the library evolved into different buildings in a different location, and I got to see the complete transformation of it. You know, walking in when they had gutted the police station and this was going to become the library, and then they added the second floor to it, and just watching that whole development and being able to be a part of that history, capturing every moment and every new part that was coming onto it, that was just fascinating.
While the library maintains many strong ties to its roots, it continues to evolve with the needs of the community. One example was the need for increased availability of internet access during the pandemic, which began in 2020.
Providing internet access to people. When the pandemic hit, we had to make sure that we got the internet out in our parking lot out there so that people would come and do homework. So you'd look out and you'd see people pull up in their hatchbacks, and they'd pop the hatchback up, and the kids and then would lounge out there trying to get their homework done because they didn't have a good signal at home. And then we transitioned from that into providing hotspots.
The Washington Public Library continues to provide the community with needed resources. Today, the shelves are filled with over 50,000 items that have grown to include not just books and magazines, but games, DVDs, microscopes, homeschooling kits, and home maintenance equipment, as well as an entire digital collection of electronic books, movies, music, magazines, and audiobooks.
there's just a huge demand in general for books, entertainment, DVDs, books on CD, even music. I mean, all that remains, and that's been true for 100 years. Libraries have been an essential, and so our core mission will still remain intact throughout all that.
Another aspect that has made the Washington Public Library unique over the years is that it continues to remain an independent city library.
So we're unique in the surrounding area. We're surrounded by Scenic Regional Library, and they are all governed out of the headquarters in Union. So all the branches are governed out of one. This library, is held by the city of Washington, and so the taxes are kind of halfway between the city of Washington sales tax and the library dedicated real estate tax, kind of fund the library, and it makes our focus of our programming a little different. That we're not one organization reporting, one branch reporting up to a bigger structure. We contain it all within, and so hopefully we can respond to the needs of the community pretty rapidly. I tell everyone, hey, look, we're a city library, so one of the things we try to do is we should be able to offer a real friendly, nice, quality, small town service where we get to know people and we get to make time for people, make everyone feel welcome.
For the past 100 years, the city of Washington has seen dramatic change, but the library continues to remain a constant within the community. The independent community library serves as a place for Washington residents to gather, learn, and connect.
And it's just going to continue to grow. It's such a great asset to our town. I mean, we are so lucky. We all call it the hidden gem. It is just a gem of a library. We're so lucky.